All right, in this video, we're going to be looking at demographics. And before we jump right in, let's do a quick review. Again, I would encourage you to pause the video at this time to try and review what these terms are: target market, primary market, secondary market, and market segmentation. At this point, you should have learned that the target market is a specific consumer segment that you want to try and sell your products to or service. The people who are the most interested in your product and which particular products are directed to. The primary market is this target market, the customers or consumers who will most likely buy the product. And the secondary market are essentially the ones who might pick it up even though they weren't the main target. For example, trying to sell phones to teenagers and business people, while as maybe other people who are not in the target market would be considered the secondary market. And then there's market segmentation. It's how we divide up the market into smaller subgroups based on shared characteristics. So let's take a look at demographics. What are demographics? Well, it's the study of obvious characteristics that categorize people. How do we characterize them? By age, gender, family life cycle, income level, education attainment, employment and status, and ethnicity and culture. These are just some of the ways that we can try and break up or categorize people. And they're important because they allow us to try and focus in on who our target market is when we're trying to provide a service or a good. So here's some examples. As we go through this, we're going to take a look at each one. 0 to 9, children and gatekeepers. Gatekeepers are the ones who are buying the products for their family generally. Usually that'll be the parents or the guardians. Children are influenced the gatekeepers. Can you try and think of a case where you told your parents, I really want to have that product, and eventually they went out and they bought it? Because they're acting as a gatekeeper. They are essentially controlling what you can or cannot have. 10 to 15, they don't really have much of a regular income. Maybe some of them have part-time jobs. Gatekeepers are still responsible for most purchases. 16 to 19, they still rely on gatekeepers for their financial support, but they do have some disposable income from part-time work. Maybe you decide to go out and buy some shoes. 20 to 25, your purchases you start to become a little bit more independent. You're single, generally speaking, personal care products, furniture, cooking, linens. Okay, you're going to start buying those things. Your brand loyalty is established here. So when we start trying to talk about branding, you're going to try and focus on people on the ages of 20 to 25 because this is where they really start to establish that gut feeling of how they feel about specific brands. 25 to 40, making life's major decisions. Maybe you're starting to become a little bit more stabilized. You're going to start to buy things like your homes or your cars or your vehicles, some of the larger purchases in life. 40 to 55, your career goals are met. You kind of max out your salary around that point. Life is stable. Kids leaving, you have more disposable income, and the quality products and luxury goods start to come into your life because you no longer have to spend the money on other things. Maybe your kids leave and they start to become a little bit more independent or dependent upon themselves. 55 plus, this is currently the fastest growing market. It's the biggest market. High disposable income, traveling, healthcare issues, products. In fact, if I were to make a prediction on what our focus will be on the next 10 years, it will primarily be on things that baby boomers want. So you'll also start to see a higher increase in retirement homes and any kind of product related to baby boomers. Maybe they'll have more disposable income. And if you want to try and sell a good where people are going to buy it, you probably want to do a little bit more research into what these guys or gals would want. Baby boomers, by definition, are those born from 1946 to 1963. So currently, well, actually, we should add about 5 years because I think these slides are a bit older. They would be about 57 to 74 years old. Help create markets due to size, economic growth. So examples, teenagers, they love rock and roll music, family, minivans, station wagons. Many family trends are started by baby boomers. Businesses want to attract this group because they're a very large group. Gender and traditional roles. So let's take a look at this. What are some products that men usually buy? Well, tools for home improvement, shaving products, cologne, And on the other side, for women, we've got dresses, makeup, pantyhose, high-heeled shoes. On both sides, you're definitely not going to see, or you don't expect to see, that these are going to be exchanged in personal hygiene products, grocery shopping. And what we will start to see in the next set of slides is that difference between traditional gender roles is starting to have a shift. You are starting to see more females pick up and use more tools. And you also start to see where there are advertisements aimed at men for things that women have traditionally done. For example, I recently saw a advertisement about how guys are being marketed towards with wet wipes and changing diapers. Income levels can have a huge impact on what consumers can or cannot buy. Consumers can be grouped according to how much money they earn. Marketers use this data to determine how many people in a particular area can afford specific products or services. So here's an example of what they look at. LICO, or low income cutoff, is essentially what we can call the poverty level. LICO is an income threshold beyond which a family is expected to devote a larger share of its income to necessities of food, shelter, and clothing than the average family would. For example, if we read this chart from 2020, one person having an income of $25,000 or less, $25,921 to be specific, has probably more money going towards just overall living. And then anybody beyond that threshold now starts to have a little bit more disposable income to spend on other things. And the LICO, the low cutoff, is going to be dependent upon how many people are in that family. So let's take a look. Brands that are not targeted according to particular income: water bottles, Coca Cola, Rogers, gum, over the counter medication, Advil, Tylenol. They should be the same for all income levels. These are just examples, but there are some things which do depend on income. Luxury products are definitely aimed at the higher class, and that's what we call status. So they'll end up going for things like your Ferraris, McLarens, or things that maybe, like for example, Burberry, they're catering towards a target market with a high income level. Then we go into family life cycle. This is a consumer stage in life in the family life cycle that determines many of his or her needs, wants, and buying patterns. What are some possible stages? Let's take a look. There's a lot of them. Single, never married, married, no children, married, small children, married, adolescent children, married, adult children, separated, divorced, widowed, no children, separated, divorced, widowed, small children, separated, divorced, widowed, adolescent children, blended family, extended family, multi generational. And what you start to see here is that there are many different cases. In fact, if I were to start to think about products that a family would buy, if I'm thinking married with small children, I'm thinking they're getting diapers and wipes. And if I start thinking about married adolescent children, maybe they're buying a basketball net that they can put outside. Definitely, these are the products that each group of families will buy is going to be dependent upon where they are in their family life cycle. Same sex families, teenage parents. Ethnicity and culture. Marketers must consider the cultural makeup of a market and the preferences of subgroups. Example of products and businesses: food, entertainment, religious institutions and materials, private education, and clothing. As an example, over the past several years, I've seen many immigrants coming into the country, or maybe migration between within areas of the country, and as a result, I have seen quite a few more halal products being offered within my supermarket. This is an example of how the supermarkets within my area are adapting to the culture of the people that are going there. You could come up with many different ones. I think I've seen more emergence of things like oxtail in the supermarkets too. Education and employment. Education, high school, post secondary, graduate, here's just different levels of education. Whether or not they've graduated high school, maybe they have or haven't. And how that graduation, or sorry, that education level is going to dictate what some people want to buy. Then you've got employment: full time employment, part time employment, occasional, retired, manufacturing service, financial government, consultation. These are all ways which we can categorize people, and we may design a product and focus them based upon whatever kind of employment or education level they have. This is going to become something which comes up frequently: demographics, psychographics, geographics, and Wait, where are we here? Psychographics, geographics, and product use statistics. So it's what are psychographics? Psychographics are essentially your belief system, a system for measuring consumer beliefs, opinions, and interests. Here are some examples. You could be religious, you could have different tastes in music, your lifestyle could be different. Maybe you're athletic, maybe you're more of a scholar, maybe you want to have healthy living. Art, maybe your focus is on art and music. Maybe you're a nature lover. Your attitude towards health, personality traits, and other physiological factors. So, for example, the person who's going to McDonald's may have not be the same target market as somebody going to a Freshie or a Subway. And that comes down to healthy living. Where consumers live makes a huge difference in demand. Here's some three main categories: urban, which could be downtown activities, busy city, an example would be Toronto; suburban, outside of a major city, an example would be Brampton; and then rural, which could be changing over the next 10 to 15 years, but is mainly things like your farms, far from main roads, Caledon. And so an example of this would be, I think I would see more trampolines in things like a suburban area and less trampolines in a urban area just because the lot sizes are much smaller. So here's some examples. Urban inhabitants, they care about parking, cultural events, restaurants, public transportation. Suburban care about gardens, barbecues, cars, gas, and insurance. Rural inhabitants care about trucks, tractors, farm equipment, riding mowers, feed suppliers for animals. And we finally come down to this product use statistics. Consumer profiles categorize consumers by how frequently they use a specific product. They can categorize them by a heavy user, usually related to brand loyalty; medium users, or light, convert or promote product consumption of the product; and then there's the non-users, which are the first-time buyers. They're new moms attempt to change consumer habits to try and create that need or value. Remember that 20 to 25 age range is where people start to really develop their brand habits, the value that they put in each brand. And that's it for demographics. I hope you've enjoyed.